everybody, and welcome to another bonus episode of What a Hell of a Way to Die. It is the Zoo Crew once again. We got Armenian Joe.
Still Russian.
You're Soviet at one point in time. It's still the same thing.
You're using my own soundboard against me.
And we've got Carrie the Shockmaster ready to go here.
Here to provide all your binding legal needs. Everything on this cast is binding legal advice, particularly all the worst ideas.
Specifically the worst ideas.
Right.
Those are the only ideas we generally have.
I don't know. I mean, every so often there's like a don't do a war crime. I feel like that's usually a pretty good idea.
We can only hope. So gentlemen, I gathered you here today for something special. Joe normally does all of the research for his show. I'm getting more into, and when I say research, I mean Wikipedia, but I have a script.
Right. People accuse me of that too, even though I've spent entirely too much money in books that I only skim through.
You just got see. That's the thing. Wikipedia is good because it tells you all the books to read at the bottom.
Oh, like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Welcome to your undergraduate in history.
So, gentlemen, what do you think about draft dodgers?
There's a lot of bad people who have been draft dodgers, so I don't want to say like.
How about the act of dodging the draft, though?
Oh, it's rad. Yeah, it's good. It's good and fun.
Well, my uncle was actually dodged the draft during Vietnam, up in Canada, and it was actually how he met his wife.
He literally has a Canadian girlfriend.
Yeah, he literally had a Canadian girlfriend because he went up to Vancouver during Vietnam and met the woman who would become his wife and got married, and then later went on to a nice career as a photography teacher at the University of Washington. So if you're not a weird chicken hawk dodging the draft, positive. If you are, if you are a weird
sometimes
chicken
it works
hawk,
out.
Yeah,
I will say if you dodge the draft and then like go on to make a career in politics, and because like most of the people who we're alluding to don't go to Canada to dodge the draft, right? They just use dad's money or get a slot in the local National Guard.
Well, that's what a lot now and see like there's like because I asked my dad about it the other day, and I was like, so because he joined the military in the 60s, and I said that was the draft time, right? He's like, yeah, they were gonna like. I got noticed that my draft card was in the mail, so I said fuck it and went and enlisted so that I could pick what I wanted to do. So like, I know, like there's a big thing back. It was like, oh, George Bush, you joined the National Guard to get out of going to war. Fucking yeah, that's smart. Like, why would you let them like drag you in and make you frontline fucking infantry somewhere? Why wouldn't you go join and pick your fucking job? So yeah. and draft dodging, like I know that people like to say, oh, Donald Trump dodged the draft. He was in school. He had other things. He had like actual things kind of going on.
I mean, that is draft dodging, is using deferments to get out of the draft, especially deferments that aren't real.
Right. And Joe Biden has dodged the draft in that way as well. He was they turned him away because they said he had asthma. Now, I looked it up, and also Joe Biden was apparently a star receiver in his football team back in high school. So maybe asthma meant something different in 1971 or whatever. When
it just meant you could only smoke 3 packets of cigarettes a day instead of 4.
It meant you had to switch to filters,
It's like Bernie Sanders dodged the draft in a very unique way by claiming a religious exemption and then dragging it through the court while openly admitting he wasn't particularly religious, knowing that it would take forever for them to finally draft him, and it worked.
Yeah, by the time they drafted him, he was too old. So
it might be the only that might be the only positive use of lawyer brain that anyone was ever actually.
Yeah, he just knew that it was going to take forever to get through the courts, and by the time it finally did, they'd stop drafting, I forget that the draft stopped, or his draft number had simply passed by at that point. I don't remember which, but like he admitted that was his goal, which is very smart because he was broke. He didn't have the money to do anything else. The draft might be strong, but it's not as strong as family.
I mean. Oh man, that's got to be like the next step of the like Fast and Furious thing. Is that I know they said they're going to end it, but I feel like in like 4 years we'll get a prequel.
Yeah,
and that's what it'll be. It'll be like Too Fast, Too Furious, the Vietnam edition.
I'm kind of shocked that there hasn't been like a Dominic Toretto before the Paul Walker movie yet.
Yeah,
I'm surprised I remembered his name.
Figure it'd be like a slam dunk. I missed the brief period of time where like every time
much like Paul Walker going into a tree. I feel comfortable saying that because he's an asshole who got someone killed and also a predator.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. It was though it was funny for a while there though, where like every like like shitty tuner car had like a R.I.P. Paul Walker sticker on there.
Yeah, yeah.
Which was weird because Paul Walker wasn't even like a good part of that. Like he's not a good actor.
He's a fucking cop.
Yeah, all cops are bastard. That means
Paul Walker. Yeah.
All right, well, excuse me. I gotta go create something on Redbubble real quick. I'll be right there.
He was a car cop, which means he was one of the good ones, and also redacted.
He tried to take Vin Diesel away from his family.
Yeah,
so we can't have that.
Tree was stronger than Paul Walker, but it's not stronger than family.
So Nate, here's where you're cut back in.
Oh, we said way worse things while you were gone.
So another famous Vietnam quote draft dodger that I found out, Ted Bundy dodged the draft.
Interesting. Okay. Critical support to Ted Bundy.
he air quote dodged the draft. So he was asked about it, and he's just like, "Yeah, I showed up for the draft board, but I had a broken ankle." And they said, "Oh, well, we'll draft you later." And then they never did.
He showed up to the draft board wearing someone else's skin, and it turned you got them drafted instead.
Oh yeah, that's like the Ted Nugent draft dodge story. They won't dodge or draft you if you're fucking insane.
Which he later recanted because I guess even he was just like, people keep saying I shit my pants to get out of the army. That's
what he said.
I know. And
like, all right, Ted Nugent, I will believe that you did not shit your pants. However, you did write multiple songs about having sex with underage girls.
Cat scratch fever, baby. So I want to talk about two like actual draft out. Like Carrie, like your uncle, right? The one who went to Canada.
Yeah.
That's real draft dodging. That's go fuck yourself. I'm not going to squirrel my way out of it. I'm going to leave. I'm just going to fuck off and you guys can't get me.
Yep.
And during Vietnam, obviously there were, tens of thousands that went to Canada. There's actually a small enclave of American descendants in Sweden because a bunch of Americans dodged the draft in Sweden, and they were just like, "Yeah, seems nice here."
Is one of them named Orr?
We've already married ourselves some flaxen-haired, cow milking women. We're fine. We're just going to stay out here. I don't know what they wear clogs. I don't know what the racist thing for Norwegians is.
Penguin people.
Well, also Sweden is not Norway. Just to throw that one out.
Oh, it's like all that same thing. It's all that.
All right, fine. Tell me one difference, Shocks. Tell me one fundamental difference between the Swedish and the Norwegians.
Both countries look like two balls hanging real low, like old man balls.
Hello to what I assume are no longer the Norwegian listeners.
Remember, this is hell of a way to die. If you're subscribed to Lines Led by Donkeys, we love you.
Where is it? Aren't you like number one history in Libya or something like that?
Albania. A country that is now a rolling joke over 3 different podcasts that I am Albanian and not Armenian.
There's a plumbing company that's really like very close to where I live because I see
what is the number one podcast in fucking Libya right now? Drone strikes today.
You and your rubble. Let's stop before we say something really bad. So I'm going to go back. We're going to cover 3 draft dodgers. One of them during World War I, and two of them during World War II. Because these were everybody tried to dodge Vietnam like that, or Korea, like that's nothing new. But like
Whip.
World War I, World War II, those were the the first one wasn't a quote good war, but it was
bespoke draft dodging.
Right.
Oh, cool.
It was
now my puppy is barking. Thank you.
That's fine. We could use a fourth on this one anyway. So first, we're going to start with World War I, the Philly draft dodger Grover Cleveland Bergdahl.
Wait, you're
Which
fucking kidding
Please
me.
tell me that's his full name.
That is his full absolute name.
That is magnificent.
Grover. He was named after Grover Cleveland, and he does have the last name
also
of Bergdahl.
That's fucking amazing.
No
He actually
relation
had
because
to go to Afghanistan before we were there in order to earn that name.
Who knew it was a proud family legacy? We've just been hating on the motherfucker this entire time.
I hated Grover Cleveland Bergdahl way before it was cool to hate Bo Bergdahl.
Yeah, this is hipster. This is hipster draft dodging. This is like, this is draft dodging on vinyl, or I guess like at that time Victrola.
Just a big
a
ear
wax-
horn or some sort.
a wax cylinder of some kind. I don't know. Whatever
Silent movie of draft dodging.
A piano where you have to pump the thing and it plays automatically.
Just in the in the background, it's still playing Creedence Clearwater Revival, but it's like in a ragtime.
So Grover Cleveland Bergdahl was.
God damn, that name's not gonna never make me laugh.
If you think that you might hate him, it's fine because he was a rich asshole. He was born to a brewery family in Brewerytown, Pennsylvania, a place that does exist.
That's incredible,
man. Just just really inventive people we have down there in the Mid-Atlantic. What do we call it? I don't know. Brewery Town.
What we got here? We got a bunch of breweries. It's a town full of breweries. Fucking guess what, bitch?
I mean, I think that's the same state as Mechanicsburg. So I think you might be onto how they named this place.
So Grover did normal rich people stuff, which was basically be a terror and a huge asshole in a lot of ways. This is pre-World War I, but like also post when cars and airplanes started to come around and like be available, not like for everybody. Obviously, like not everyone could fly an airplane in 1910, but Grover Cleveland certainly could. Well, at least the Bergdahl version of it.
For it.
Well, that was
he was taught by the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers had a school of flight, and they built and sold airplanes, and he bought a Wright brother airplane. He is the first person to fly between Pennsylvania and Atlantic City. So he went from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Atlantic City. First person to fly that route.
What would pilot school be like from the Wright brothers? Because they're like, all right, well, what if this happens? Then we don't know. We haven't made it that far yet.
No one's ever done that yet.
You shift to the left, you shift to the right. Don't go up. Don't go higher than you are tall.
Well, at least the good thing about this whole thing is that at least we no longer have a bunch of rich people doing dumb flying shit for money. Anyway, time to just open up my headlines and just read about the latest space race.
This is unrelated to anything, but have they invented an anti-aircraft missile that reaches the stratosphere yet?
I don't know, but I'm interested to find out, and maybe we can discuss that later.
Go fund me.
I mean, it also just makes me think of, I think someone had a post, like, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago that was, World War I must have been a bitch because, you come from a farm town the first time you ever see a plane and then it kills you.
Whoa, that's cool. Oh shit, I'm dead. He threw a bomb out of the top of it.
Some guy in a leather flying hat just threw a grenade at me from 500 feet above me.
A handlebar mustache, and it just and then the guy crashes and dies too. It's like, well, fuck.
Or just like a guy with a leather flying hat and some goggles just shot me with a rifle from his dipshit little paper plane that's like flying by with like a 4-cylinder engine. Like,
but it's fine because you and your dipshit friends can shoot back and be just as effective.
Me and all my friends with dysentery just got killed by a satanic flying machine.
So another thing that he liked to do is race. He tried to he raced
racism.
Circuits.
Yeah, no, I mean, I figured it would racism. It's
he raced circuits, and he liked to drive around country back roads at like 80 miles an hour, which like in 1915 is absolutely insane.
How the fuck did he get to 80 miles an hour? 80 miles an hour hadn't even been invented yet.
He figured it out. Somehow, see, it's a good thing he just didn't get up to 88. Then he would have gone further back in time. But what he would do, here's the thing. This is funny because Bergdahl again is a fucking prick. He would drive.
Who would have thought?
He would drive by wagons that had hay in them and purposely backfire his car to catch them on fire, and like apparently burn down an entire pier doing shit like that.
Dude's rock.
fucking owns. And he was, you gotta understand, he's the Kardashian of the East Coast. Life magazine at the time called him the Playboy of the East Coast. He was well known, like from Kansas all the way, to the Atlantic Ocean. He was
Kansas
reported
all the
on
way to St. Louis.
Is it because he also made a sex tape with a C-rate rapper?
Grover Cleveland Bergdahl and his amazing flying machine.
Get his booty clapped by Ray J.
Just in a black and white movie, like a
He's just old timey, and it just has to cut to words. It's just like parentheses, clap, clap, clap.
like one of the like a Viewmaster, like you got to go through slides, like you're just like watching it like slide by slide.
So World War I started up, and at this time, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but there really wasn't a federal army.
No, not yet. That's pretty much an invention of the First World War.
Right. The First World War, they're like, oh shit, we need to be able to drag these motherfuckers from everywhere to go fight in the Argonne Forest for whatever reason. Still not sure about what World War I was all about. Maybe Joe will do a podcast on it someday.
Inbred kids beefing over turf. Next slide.
So yeah, the draft, he went and registered for the draft like a good boy, but decided, well, I'm just not actually going to show up for the physical or any of the other stuff that I would have to do. So the draft, the draft, I guess the FBI was very, very young at this time, but the local draft board would send people to go to come and get you. So
I think they were still like just Treasury agents at this time.
Well, FBI started in 1908, but yeah, but it's again we're talking 1916 at this point. So
yeah,
it's like FBI, sure, but not in Brewerytown, Pennsylvania. There's no fucking FBI.
At least one of the fun things about the onboarding physical was that it was new. Prior to this, during the Pancho Villa expedition, the army didn't actually have one until you got mustered. So like they would have all these people on rolls and like, we need 50,000 men to be called up. Time to do all these physicals. Like, you're missing a hand. All right. And so like by the end, like a third of the recruits are actually not fit for service.
It's like, this one seems to be dead, actually.
This is a corpse, sir.
So, of course, as I said, everybody knew who Grover Cleveland Bergdahl was with a fucking name like that. How could you not? And they would be like, "Hey, man, why are you not going and doing this stuff? Why aren't you doing it?" Because also, there's a lot of anti-German rhetoric that's being stirred up, and a lot of immigrants, the Bergdahls included, were German descended at this time. So there's a lot of just like, why isn't he joining? Why isn't he doing this, that, and the other thing? So Bergdahl evades the police until 1920, when the authorities come and kick in the mansion door of his mother and fight off his gun-wielding mom.
Yeah.
His mom meets the authorities at the door with a revolver in one hand and a blackjack in the other. And it's just like, fucking, let's go.
Worst prom night ever.
They managed to take her to quote take her out. They managed to subdue her, and they find Bergdahl hiding under some pillows underneath a window.
All right, real bitch move, gotta say. You're gonna let your mom duke it out with the cops, and you're gonna hide under a stack of pillows. It was like a fortress that said "No girls allowed" or something.
No, it just says it was the what is it? The autonomous zone. He created his own autonomous zone and said the cops can't come in here.
Yeah, my parents' basement autonomous zone.
Also, everything above me is a no-fly zone now too. So the planes
just
like
yelling at the FBI agents that like the floor is lava and they can't step on it.
So Bergdahl goes to prison, and that would normally be
enough also in Pakistan.
So Bergdahl goes to prison, and then about 5 months into his sentence, because he's a rich guy,
Ernest movie, Bergdahl goes to prison.
So the off-brand Bo Bergdahl here manages to convince the local cops, "Hey, I have a stash of gold that's buried by my house. I need to go and get it. Will you come
As
and
one
get
does,
the gold with me?
you know? Normal people problems.
Also, just
See,
yeah,
you're
officer.
laughing like it's a dumb idea, but it worked. So, is it a dumb idea? No. They went back to the house. He manages to evade them. In some more family solidarity, the chauffeur fucking spirits him away into Canada, and he gets onto a boat and goes to Germany. And just like, fuck y'all, I'm out. I'm just going to go live in Germany. He had an uncle that owned a hotel out there. And he's like, I'm just going to go out here and make a name for myself there.
How long was he supposed to be in prison for?
He was sentenced to 5 years, and he ended up.
And how long did he end up spending before he escaped?
From what I've said, what I've seen is 5 months. He was in for 5 months, and then he escaped.
I mean, I guess that makes sense, but it's also just seems like, I don't know, like, I feel like parole was probably a thing at the time. Like, you could probably just like buy a judge and he would have gotten you out. Like,
it depends. They didn't want to. They did like draft dodging at the time was taken pretty seriously because they were worried if they didn't punish it, more people would dodge. So most people's sentences were just like thrown out when the war was over. But like during the war, you were hooked the fuck up for the long run.
Yeah, but I mean, this was already in the 20s. That's like the thing. Like, I feel like, at that point, like, I don't know, you probably do a year and then they let you out or something.
Yeah, you'd probably get paroled.
Well, here's the thing. This is so like you, me, and everybody who listens to this podcast, maybe, but this is a rich asshole, and people already didn't fucking like him. So
it's true.
It's really one of those. It's just like, isn't it funny to watch the rich asshole get in trouble? But yeah, he would have probably gotten parole. Here's the thing: he wouldn't have even gotten fucking drafted in the first place because he put down that his job was making automotive parts, which was highly necessary at the time. And they told manufacturers, no, don't go to war, stay here and make stuff. So he would never. All of this, if you just showed up, they'd be like, oh shit, you have money and you make things. No, go home and continue to do that. So all of this really comes down to he's just a huge dumbass and ran for 20 plus years for no reason. So while in Germany, there were 2 attempts to kidnap him. And I got this man is fucking slippery as shit. Grover Cleveland Bergdahl, I swear to God.
By the FBI or like who's trying to kidnap him?
So one time, 1921, 2 Army sergeants spotted him, and their plan was that they were going to capture him and take him into Allied-controlled Germany. I guess there are parts 1921 post World War I Germany. There were apparently parts of Germany that the military still had, Allied forces still had presence in. So it's like, oh, there's that draft dodger. Let's go fucking get him, and we'll drag him over and get him. Get him prosecuted for what he did. So they jumped him at a train station. He managed to get away. These 2 Army sergeants, and they got 4 more goons to come with him. He jumped into a car and they just started shooting at the car as the car drove away. Only one person got wounded by the bullets, and it was just like a random passenger in the car. I don't know how cars worked back then. I don't know if it was just like in the movies where you jump in, you're like, drive, and it's like, oh, okay, let's go. Or it sounds like it because it would make sense because they started shooting at the car. So
they're shooting at the car, and you're like up at the front, just like still winding the fucker up, like trying to turn the engine over. He's like, come on! Like,
yeah, but it's okay because the guy shooting at you have to put new percussion caps in their revolver. So, so in 1923, a second attempt was made by a man named Corliss Hoven Griffiths. He was of the American. Yeah, he was a member of the American Graves Registration Service, which is mortuary affairs. That's mortuary affairs.
I would absolutely never want.
Yeah, particularly in fucking after World War I. Like, just
that seems pretty easy. Throw him in that ditch.
Or just like, oh well, yep. Here's a thumb. There's a piece of intestine. All right, yeah, I don't know. Like, sure, just mix them all together and call it a day.
Shove it into a zinc box and mail it home.
I when a long time ago,
2007, guy in the corner, like just taking notes.
There's like 2007 or 2008. I was looking to re-enlist, and I was in the Army, and they had this thing called the Bear Program, and you could they offered massive bonuses for shortage jobs at needs of the army, And one of the top one was drone pilot, because that was a new thing back then. But then right under that was mortuary affairs, and they were offering $50,000 for 5 years because nobody would fucking take the job. And I was like, nope. not even 19-year-old me could be swayed by $50,000, more money that I have ever made in my life up to that point, and close to that now.
just looking back on it now and realizing, well, wouldn't have made any sense because I would have to spend at least that on therapy sessions for the next rest of my life. So,
right. I'd rather go play fucking hand grenade hand toss with the Taliban than fuck around with some corpses, man. No, thank you.
That's you. I'd rather not get blown up. I mean, look, your brain's going to get fucked up one way or the other, I guess.
Look, if I'm getting blown up, I'm creating jobs for mortuary affairs specialist. I'm an entrepreneur, Francis.
Creating jobs for Iranian weapons manufacturers by driving around Afghanistan.
I believe in trickle down HME.
So Corliss manages to get a couple men to take Bergdahl at the hotel. Two of the men were waiting in his hotel room, and fucking Bergdahl kills one and seriously wounds the other. And by seriously wounds, I mean he bit the guy's thumb off.
Hell yeah. He's finally making up for his mom doing his fighting for him. Everybody
who were part of this, from the original, from 1921 and the 1923, both the kidnapping attempts, all those people went to prison for trying to kidnap Bergdahl, because technically he was under you can't do that. That's it. What they were doing was illegal. The sergeants managed to get a lesser sentence because the Allies were, the Allies are like, they're kind of working for us. So why don't you, smooth that out a little bit? But everybody else went to prison for trying to kidnap
what's the date currently?
1923.
Oh, he needs to get out of Germany and fast.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Eventually, in 1939, he left Germany. Now, a couple times he would leave Germany.
39? He waited too long.
Well, he left Germany to come back to America for multiple years, a couple of times. He came back to America twice. He stayed in Germany for 20 years, but he went to Germany. He had a place there, but he also would come home because he still had a rich family at home who would hide him. And because
how hard is it to travel under a fake name back then? What's your name? Pete Johnson. Okay.
Yeah, I'm Cleveland Grover Bergdahl. Oh, must be a totally separate guy.
Grover Cleveland, just spoonerize your own name.
Yeah, and I mean, you also have to imagine, back then too. It's not like they had easily access pictures of people and everything. You just grow a mustache, and it's literally just the thing. Homer. Who is this Homer? I'm
gonna get a time machine and go back and sell Groucho Marx classes to everybody who's trying to escape the authorities. So, 1993 or 1939, he was finally just I don't want to do this anymore. He didn't want to be in exile. He didn't want to be in Germany at the moment, obviously, because of the Nazism, the slight Nazi problem they had going on.
You would hope that was a negative for him.
Yeah, he did. He was a rich asshole, and he was probably one of those guys who's just we'll just see how it turns out. And then 1939, he's like, you know what? Maybe a federal penitentiary in the United States isn't so bad. Maybe that's a survivable thing.
Yeah, I've seen all these guys marching around all these uniforms. Heard some mutterings about some more, and it seems like it's going to be a bad time. I'd actually rather be in prison. But
I don't know, man. To be fair,
not the prisons here.
It has been several years since the Nazis had taken over in 1939. I think he was just worried about getting drafted again.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying that he was against the Nazis. I'm saying that he was still just hey, what's a good way for me to not go to war is I'm too old for war, and they'll just put me in prison anyway. So he went back to prison. He served the rest of his term plus extra 3 years, and died shortly after that. Pretty much, unmourned, and nobody gave a shit about him anymore because he was a huge asshole. A couple quotes that we have about Bergdahl from Life magazine: of the 337,649 Americans who evaded the draft, Bergdahl was the nation's #1 slacker, Life magazine asserted. And then from the New York Times, the man who took Grover Cleveland Bergdahl's place in the draft when the draft evader, now a fugitive in Germany, failed to answer the call, died a hero in the Argonne Forest after being cited by the commanding general of his brigade for bravery in action in one of the most noteworthy battles of the war.
Sounds like Bergdahl made the right choice then, huh?
Yeah, really. So you're saying it could be a dead asshole?
Yeah, no, it's a
now. And I'm going to say that that's not that is a little sensationalized. The actual person who was the actual physical number that was called after Bergdahl was not the same person. This is just a sensationalized thing from the New York Times. Even back then, they were still doing this fucking nonsense. So,
just like thinking about it, and just like thinking about just like particularly now what we know about the way that Blackjack Pershing just kind of like just battered the shit out of the AEF towards the end of the war just for no real fucking reason. Like,
the war
Bergdahl
ended and
had
he
the right
still ordered
idea.
them to attack.
Yeah, so
someone called it murder.
Like, right side of history on accident.
Every war sounds like something that you should dodge. Like if the only war that, like, if there was a draft, I would think that maybe you could be okay is the war that we just ended. Because at least we had Pizza Hut, on most of the bases.
I mean, to be fair, this is coming from a very, very American-centric podcast. There's a lot of nations that have conscription that, occasionally, say in 2020, have to use that to defend their borders from aggression.
As one does.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we only have to worry about Canadians.
That's right. You can't trust them.
All right, you guys ready for World War II? Jumping forward, where Bergdahl left us, we will pick up yet another draft dodger. This time in Alaska, and yet another German. So eventually, this one will turn into two.
Can't trust the Germans.
You can't. You can only trust them in Brewery Town to make you a nice beer, and that's about it. So we're talking about a man named Frank, and Monekis, I think, is the pronunciation. I did not look up a pronunciation for it, but Frank Monekis is a really interesting character because he is he very early 1934 moved to Alaska, and it wasn't Alaska at that time. It was still called Seward's Folly because it was just this massive chunk of land that somebody bought, and it was like, that can be America too. And like, you realize this is full of polar bears and ice, right? It fucking sucks there, right? Like you
hit
understand
the oil
that.
siren.
Yeah, Seward's Folly is much like when I got talked into buying the extended warranty on our last car, and my wife's just like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And then the heater went out, and it would have cost like $2,500 to fix, and instead it only cost $100. So it's one of those, just like, turns out I was right by accident.
But did you get the undercoating?
I don't need undercoating, baby. It's an electric car. You don't need it. So Frank Monekis, German immigrant, he moved to America in 1924 during the big Alaskan gold rush fever and everything. Moved to America in 24, moved to Alaska in 34, lived with two other German immigrants out in the wilds of Alaska in a log cabin, which still stands today, which is known as the Three German Bachelors Cabin, because naming things was just not a thing you did back then.
Because a bunch of immigrants from Pennsylvania moved there and had to name the cabin.
We can't just call it the Three Smelly Assholes, so we gotta call it something else. So in 1940, FDR, right? FDR is the president at this point, history guy.
What was the date?
1940.
Yes.
Yeah. So FDR enacted the alien naturalization. No, what is it? Fuck, I didn't write it down. Of course not. Why would I write the
Naturalization or is it Alien and Naturalization Act or something like that?
Yeah, it's called the Smith Act, and it's basically anybody who's not technically an American citizen has to register with the federal government. So Monekis at the time was just like, well, everybody assumes I belong here, and he didn't want people to like think of him as just like some asshole German who didn't belong there. So he's just like, no, I've just been a citizen all the time. There's no reason for you to think otherwise.
Just doing a fucking Jedi mind trick to his local immigration officials.
Well, here's the thing. This isn't even the draft. Like, he went and registered for the draft because his thought pattern here was, they won't think that I'm not an immigrant if I register for the draft. They'll think that I'm an American citizen. Now, if he studied World War I and how wars work, I don't know. Because I don't know why he would think like, oh yeah, I'll just register for the draft. Again, this is 1940. We still got about 4 or 5 more years of really hellish war to go through. So Muneki's just like, yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Look at me. I'm ready to go fight your war or whatever. I'm going to go fuck off back up into the wilderness. Now, he's living. There are Juneau and Fairbanks do exist, but he's living in kind of a more outward, like it's a place called Tonkus, I believe, and it's Alaska. It's all wilderness, especially in the 1940s. So it's not hard to really evade people, but we are also talking about a time when the FBI exists a lot more than it used to. So the FBI, his draft card comes up in 1942, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm not actually going to do that. I'm not going to show up for that." And they're just like, the local draft board's just like, "Well, we will go knock on his door. He said he's not going. It's up to we'll hand it off to the FBI." So, the winter between 42 and 43 was really bad, so the FBI couldn't go out to find Manekis or anything. They're just like, well, we have to wait until next year. So March of 1943, they hire themselves. The FBI hires what's known as a bush pilot. It's the guy that's just they fly all over the place in Alaska. They fly like little single engine prop planes and deliver stuff and do taxiing and whatever. So the FBI hired a bush pilot, and they're like, we know generally where he is, so just fly us around that area. So they fly around the general area, and they find a cabin, and they find 2 dogs tied up outside of the cabin. And so the plane circles around the cabin, and nobody comes out and waves at the plane, which apparently was a thing people did back then, to be like, yes, hey, somebody does live here. I'm fine. You don't need to worry about me.
Next time you fly around and I don't wave at you, bears got me.
And pretty much because that's the thing is they went and they investigated later, because they're like, look, if somebody doesn't come out, could be that somebody's hiding, but it also could be that he's dead. Like, anything could have happened.
It seems pretty realistic for that kind of life.
It's very Alaska. So his closest neighbor is 10 miles away, who is also a draft dodger, and he will join the story pretty soon. So Manekis, the feds land the plane, and they go out on foot to the cabin that they found. The dogs are gone, and they find fresh dog sled tracks going off to the west. And they're like, well, here we go. Now we've got it. So back up in the air go the FBI. And they're going to start following the trails. So they found Manekis after crossing the river called the Cahill. I don't know why they're crossing a river. I can't pronounce Alaskan names. So the hunters were circling over him. They dropped the message out. The message said, disarm, head back to the closest place where the plane could land. Manekis read the note and was like, fuck that. And abandoned the dogs, abandoned the sled, abandoned literally everything, and just ran off into the woods, up a steep embankment towards his buddy Stanton's cabin. So Stanton and Manekis are now 2 draft dodgers, arm in arm, running from the law. And you get, like, the FBI has been chasing this guy for over a year at this point. Like, they're and when you like, nowadays, when we're just like, man, it really seems like the cops do a whole lot of, unnecessary violence over, like, hopping a turnstile at the subway or, stealing a bag of chips or something like that. This really kind of lands home with this, because at any point in time, the FBI should have just been like, fuck it. The Alaska will probably kill him. I don't give a shit. Like, just fine, whatever. Live your life up here. We don't want you to go to our war anyway. But nope, the FBI is all about it.
You also just have to figure, like, at this point too, like, the number like, flying around or whatever, dinky plane the FBI probably had at that point, like around Alaska, doesn't seem like a great like life expectancy choice.
No.
Like even nowadays, I know like bush pilots don't have like a hell of a long life expectancy. So like you have to figure just even out of sheer self preservation, I would be like, the FBI agent telling my boss, yeah, I don't know, boss, dude got fucking eaten by a bear. I don't know what to tell you. Let's wrap this one up. Let's go home. Like, did you find the skull? No, I didn't find the skull. Like, let's just go.
The wolves ate it. The ferrets ate it. The whatever it is ate it. There's no more of him left. Let's just leave.
Something fucking ate it. Something ate the thing that ate him. Like, let's just get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, just make something like you're saying. Just make something up. Who's going to prove you wrong? It's Alaska,
right? It's Alaska. There's not a computer anywhere. Like, it's just paperwork.
Really? Yeah.
And this is what kills me. It's because nowadays we have so much technology to track somebody, but 1940s. But 1940 somehow they're still managing. Even Grover Cleveland, somebody recognized his picture on a train stop in Germany and then just decided to fucking jump him. Like, that's insane. What, did you see a drawing of him somewhere? And just how many times did the wrong person get jumped by a bunch of assholes? Because
probably a lot.
You just saw like a newsreel footage one day, like in between like two other silent movies, and it was just like, oh, that's the motherfucker. Like.
And heroes from around the world.
Yeah, and I mean, like, also too, just I don't know, like, just this is also Alaska in the early 1940s too. Like, the Aleutian Islands just like got like taken over by the Japanese and shit. Like, there's like larger fish to fry in the greater, even in Alaska at that point. Like, I don't know, like.
Why aren't these FBI guys at war? Like, they seem to be very good. Why aren't they doing war?
They gotta go track down draft dodgers in the Alaskan bush.
They gotta go make you do war.
And like, right. and I get it to some extent that they need to make sure that like, they enforce the draft so too many people don't dodge it. But like, motherfucker was like living in a cabin like 10 miles away from his nearest neighbor. Who the fuck was he gonna tell? Like, how was his story gonna get out if it wasn't for the fact like they're Barbara Streisanding themselves. Like, the story's not going to get out if they're not chasing after him. He's just going to be out in the fucking middle of nowhere.
Well, the FBI gets their man, no matter how stupidly they do it. It's just that like we can't let him get away with it, I guess. I personally, as a lazy person who is against the draft anyway, would say, yeah, man, fucking run off. I don't give a shit. They all get eaten by bears. There's no more Alaska anymore. I don't know what you're talking about.
Bears.
Draft the bears, the Russian bears.
Wojtek did a great job.
We'll get the Soviet bears with us.
Wojtek did nothing wrong.
So Menekes has run to Stanton's house, left his dogs behind. The FBI agents show up to Stanton's house ahead of Menekes. Stanton, also again a draft dodger, is outside chopping wood. The FBI shows up. He drops the axe and immediately runs. He's the fuck out. He has no supplies or equipment. He hiked through sub-zero temperatures for like 2 days, breaking into cabins all along the way for supplies, zigzagging across the countryside to avoid traps. The agents almost caught him in another cabin. They caught him like in the middle of cooking food. And so he fled, and the agents like ate the food, and they're like, "Cool, thanks for lunch." But also, Stanton left behind a note that said, "I'm going to hell now. If you want to know where that is, follow my tracks." So at this time, Menekes has been captured at Stanton. He was going to Stanton's. The FBI showed up before him. Menekes gets caught. Stanton, though, is still on the fucking run. So Stanton is just running towards the mountains, dashing tree to tree for cover. They're circling in the air with the bush pilot. They got people on the ground. How do you think Stanton? What's the most Alaska way that you think that Stanton could have gotten caught? And I know none of us have probably ever seen Alaska, but just imagining Alaska, the tundra as it is.
Slips and falls through the ice? I don't know.
No, a moose.
What?
A
moose. That tracks. Yeah, okay, fine. The moose, also an FBI agent.
So the moose, they were flying around, and there was a moose that they saw that was completely ignoring the airplane and was intently staring into the trees. And they're like, "That's not normal for a moose to do. Let's land."
The moose was fucking narc.
That moose was just out doing moose shit, and then somebody in a sleeping bag was hunched over in his moose area, and he's just like, "What the fuck is this?" He wasn't a narc, man. Somebody was just impinging on his moose time.
That's no excuse to narc someone out to the cops, Moose.
Especially during World War II, man. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, he was huddled. He was huddled in a sleeping bag, intent on waiting out the hunt.
I've heard about the horny police, but this really takes the cake.
So in all, federal agents made 27 landings and mushed for 32 miles in their hunts for Menekes and Stanton. Like many captured animals, Menekes immediately expressed regret, saying he was ready to face the music.
I literally can't think of anything that I would be chasing after where I would do that.
No, there's nothing.
Like,
I wouldn't drive more than an hour to get laid, man. Come on.
$1 million. Yeah. Like maybe for $1 million, I would do mush 32 miles and do whatever else. But absent personal riches, no, I'm not doing that.
So Menekes eventually spent 1 year in prison and then went back to Alaska. Did not lose any face with the locals. He operated a hotel and bar with a friend and was naturalized as a citizen in 1953. Now, a fun little side fact of Menekes that I found out, just Google searching the name, because I love a name that is very unique, because when you Google it, you're going to find some good shit. Nobody's going to find anything about Draft Dodger fucking John Smith. They're just not. You're not going to find anything there. It's nothing,
good for John Smith then.
Yeah, good for him. Like there's 700 John Smiths the FBI has to go through before they'll get to you. But Menekes was actually involved in a as you alluded to, Carrie, a fucking airplane crash from a bush pilot. So, and this is wild, because I found this out from an article that was about how cool the bush pilot is. Menekes just happened to be like a side effect of it. He would just happen to be also there. So the pilot, the airplane went nose down into a lake. The pilot dragged Menekes out, swam 50 yards to an island. Menekes was unconscious but alive, so he packed him, covered him in moss and got him as warm as he could. The pilot then, with only a knife, walked 50 miles in about 3 days, defending himself against at least 3 grizzly bear attacks. To his stories, now we're talking about a guy telling a story about his own heroic deeds, so asterisk for anything that we hear here. But I am going to say pretty awesome that he fought off grizzly bears with a knife, and Menekes survived.
4 grizzly bears.
I would have. See, and that's the thing. Was it 2, and he just went with 3? I don't know.
Hat trick, baby.
I probably could have done 5. I mean, I'm just
built different.
Yeah, whatever.
Honestly, Alaskan wilderness people are some of the hardest motherfuckers I've ever heard about.
They're all insane.
They have to be.
But also probably if you're in Alaska for whatever reason, you do what they say, otherwise you're going to die. Otherwise you're going to become that dude with the van.
Oh God, Christopher McCandless. Yeah, a guy who died because he poisoned himself.
Yep. Yeah, with seeds or something.
Yeah, it was some kind of potato seed that gave him a Victorian wasting disease.
Motherfucker accidentally
hard to find leeches in Alaska.
He's got bad blood. Got to get the bad blood out.
So a little a final cap with Menekes. He claims he would have willingly fought against the Japanese, but not raised arms against the Germans. He said his 2 brothers both served in the German army, and he further worried that news of his service would reach around the world and possibly endanger his family. Quote, I don't know just how the word gets to Germany, but it gets there. When I was living in Chicago before coming to Alaska, my relatives knew all about how I was behaving and what kind of work I was doing, whether I told them or not. I'm the black sheep of the family, and I'm not going to bring any trouble to my parents or brothers, end quote, which is very strong words for a guy whose brothers apparently were in the Nazi army. When it says the German army. Are we going to say that about 1935? The German army. All right.
This is the Wehrmacht.
Yeah, we all know how nice they were.
Yeah, I've heard they're very clean.
Very clean.
What's
shiny boots.
Many people say I have the cleanest Wehrmacht. It's kind of funny because like what he's saying isn't entirely incorrect. Like the word, like the underground like German mafia or like rumor mill spread pretty quickly. Like people knew when they had like family members who were serving in one or the other. But also, who gives a shit? Like Hitler's nephew served in the Navy. Get over yourself.
Right.
The U.S. Navy, mind you, under the name Willie Hitler.
Good old Willie Hitler, who wrote an excellent article called "Why I Hate My Uncle Adolf Hitler."
I plan on doing an entire episode about him, so like I look forward to that. But it's all very petty and stupid, and I love it.
I want to be on that because I love Willie Hitler.
It'll go ahead and clip out the Willie part of that and make it the intro to this episode. Francis saying I love Hitler on repeat.
Well, we have a new addition to the soundboard right there.
Well, gentlemen, I hope, and I'm sure there's other draft dodgers, but man, like I really appreciate the guys that go above and beyond, because the thing is for both of these guys, or all three of these guys, it really, like, afterwards it was a lot of just like I don't know what I thought. I just ran. Like I didn't have a plan. I just knew that I didn't want to go to war, and there's never an end game in it. Like eventually you're just going to go to jail.
No, it's the rich dudes that have a plan. They're like, no, I'm going to get this doctor to say my feet are backwards.
No, my mom has a gun and a blackjack. She's going to protect me.
That's just as good.
My wife has a friend who has a ex-boyfriend who they're still friends, who apparently ran away from Air Force basic training and was like living on the lam for 2 years, but it meant that like he couldn't get a job and he couldn't do anything. So he was just kind of mooching off of her, and everybody's like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, he can't get a job because he ran away from the Air Force. And they're like, he needs to go turn himself in. And he spent like 2 days in jail. And then they're like, you're getting a bad conduct discharge. Go do whatever.
Yeah, going AWOL is one of those weird crimes that actually gets less serious the further time you run away. Because they're like, if you get caught immediately, like you're getting fucking hammered. But if you manage to escape for like years, they're like, we don't care. Just here. Yeah. Like cycle through the prison, come out the other side, and you're good.
Yeah. Like we just need to
spend a long weekend in jail and fuck off.
Well, wasn't that like a thing too, even for Did you guys ever watch that documentary with the dudes who defected to North Korea?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I think it was like
James Dresnock and a whole bunch of the other ones.
Yeah, and because didn't one of them eventually come back, and that was like a similar thing too, where they like essentially insisted that they had to at least like symbolically punish them for like going AWOL and defecting to the other side.
One of the guys who married a Japanese woman while he was in North Korea, because North Korea kidnapped a lot of Japanese people to try to teach North Koreans how to be excellent spies. Yeah. It's a very dumb story that one day I might talk a little bit more about, but they both managed to come back. I think it was like her parents died and they were allowed to go to the funeral under like a pinky promise they had to return to North Korea, and they're like, yeah, sure, and then they just didn't.
No.
Because I mean they had been there for like 40 fucking years.
Right.
And then he turned himself in, and I believe he was sentenced to like 30 days in jail. I mean, it's like in his 70s or 80s. And I think
which
most of it was suspended.
That could be a life sentence at that point. I mean, fuck, a day could be a life sentence.
Yeah,
but,
I think most of it was suspended, though.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it's like one of those things where it just. I mean, the thing that really gets to me for all three of these stories is just like how incredibly weirdly petty the federal government is, and I guess it makes sense because I get it that you want to make sure that folks don't draft the Dodge and like whatever, but it just like the sheer amount of resources involved to like chase down one motherfucker in like the wilds of fucking Alaska.
I mean, that's why now they just don't look for you. Yeah, like eventually you will realize that like, wow, my life sucks with a federal arrest warrant hanging over my head. I can't do anything.
Yeah,
and then you'll
especially
turn
nowadays because you can't just take the train 3 stops down the line and show up under a different name. Like like nowadays, like with social security numbers and with like I-9 checks and like everything, it makes it so much more difficult. So I mean, and it's funny too. I mean, as you said, the person who ran away from Air Force, boot camp. I mean, I'm sure you both knew folks who just like essentially sat down in boot camp and got recycled out. And all they do is, and there was There's a dude who got assigned to a co-located unit at my when I was in upstate New York, who just like was unable to take care of himself, and he was like a nice enough kid, and like he eventually got reassigned to my unit while they were out processing him, and he was a good worker and he was fine. He was just kind of fucking weird, like he was a brony, and he just like otherwise just couldn't like hack taking care of himself out in the world. Like showed up with his own homemade haircut one day where he'd like shaved parts of his head, but not all of it, and like not in a way that really made sense, and like whatever else. And but he was a nice enough guy. But it's like even at that point, he had been in for 6 months or so, and they still just out processed him for failure to adjust, and it like wasn't a thing. So
yeah, I had somebody I remember run during morning PT, and like it was so fun because we're all like spread out on the PT field. And then some guy just like jumps up and starts running, and the drill sergeants are all just watch him go, and they're like, "Don't worry, privates, he'll be back. Don't worry." And it was funny because he ran, and it was a dewy morning, so it was slippery grass, and he ran down a small embankment and slipped and like fucked up his knee. So like one of the drill sergeants had to get a
oiled again.
Damn you, moisture. One of the drill sergeants had to get their pickup truck to go pick him up and take him to the TMC. That dude served food every day that we were in basic training, and the drill sergeant said, "Don't worry, you guys are going to leave basic training before he ever does." But I never saw that guy happier than he was just like, "Yep, I'm getting out, slop. I'm getting out. Fuck this." And like at the time, I was just like, "I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, how did you not know that what the fuck you were signing up for, bro?" Yeah. Now the other two were just like, there were two that stopped. I think it was before we were going to do the gas chamber, and they're just like, "Yeah, we just don't want to be soldiers anymore." And the drill sergeants were just like, "Okay, we can't force you. We'll start the paperwork to get you out." And they got them away from us immediately.
Yeah.
And then put them to whatever out process. And I don't know, like this was right pre 9/11, so they didn't have the incredible need for soldiers at the time. So I don't know if it was if they got other than honorable or failure to adapt or what. Like I don't know what their discharge paperwork looks like.
I can't speak for like in nowadays or even before 9/11, but I went in 2005 and 6, and it's not like that at all. Like I don't want to be soldiers anymore. Like, and I remember someone doing virtually that exact same speech, and the drill starts like, "You're not a soldier now." It's like sick burn. And like I get people wanting to dodge a draft. I wasn't drafted. I enlisted. Obviously,
we all were stupid on purpose.
Yeah, and like especially if you enlisted after 2001. You were enlisting to go to war, like whether you want to dance around that subject or not. That's like enlisting in like 1943. Like, what do you mean I have to go to Europe?
Yeah, if you like, there's no soldiers in after 2006 that didn't know what they were getting into. Like
up until now, like if you enlist now, you won't go anywhere other than like a strip club in Germany or whatever.
Too many goddamn kids on Mill Twitter not getting their fucking right arm patches, which is good. I'm glad you're not getting shot at. Yeah. I'm very glad nobody else is getting shot at.
Francis is struggling with the two wolves inside of him right now. It's like he's got like
one wolf is drinking Black Rifle coffee and the other wolf is drinking herbal tea.
You just say, like one wolf is one wolf is the retired part and one wolf is the former senior NCO part, and it's just kind of it's battling out right now, just kind of like in real time.
There are times when like I'll look down and I've got a knife hand out and I'm just like, oh God, that still happens, huh?
I mean, at least out of all the possible things that could, you could be conditioned to do, that's not the worst one.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you coming on to talk about dodging the draft and our two brand new people. Look, I don't know how you really want to feel about Grover Cleveland Bergdahl.
Powerful name.
Powerful name. Like that right there, just I could sell stickers that just say Grover Cleveland Bergdahl. And that's just powerful enough. There's nothing else that needs to be said.
Honestly, my greatest regret of this entire episode is the fact that it wasn't James Garfield Bergdahl, because that would have been such a fantastic.
Taliban feeding him beef bouillon up his asshole.
That would have been such a great crossover episode. It just would have been great,
I did just remind myself I have something to plug, and I'm bad at plugging things.
Plug stuff, bro.
On July 20th, I don't know when this episode's coming out, but on July 20th, my book, The Prisoner's Dilemma, will be available. Buy it, please. I enjoy food.
The Prisoner's Dilemma. What is The Prisoner's Dilemma? Isn't that the Stanton Project?
It is it is the first of 3 military sci-fi books to be coming out in the next few months from me via
Exciting.
Atheon Books.
Read the books.
Read the books, buy the books, celebrate the withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan by buying another copy of Joe's book.
That's what everybody else seems to have been doing. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, I think we've all decided as a society that if there's any positive that's going to come out of the withdrawal from Afghanistan, it's going to be both the fact that we're withdrawing from Afghanistan as well as the fact that Joe's going to get increased book sales. So, I think that's something that just a real bipartisan agreement there.
Buy my book, Netflix.
now that Afghanistan is over, everybody's looking for the real ennui and maudlin books, and they're just going to come across a book about a bunch of dipshits jerking off in guard towers. Which is a great.
Read an honest book,
which, to be fair, is the most honest book I've read about Afghanistan, which is why I immediately wanted to talk about it. I don't know if I was like, I started reading that book and like three pages in, I'm immediately telling my wife, just like, this is probably the greatest war story that's ever been told. It's literally all true. All of this stuff. I do not disbelieve a single thing because all of this stuff happened to me too. Nobody talks about this.
We need to start plugging the Hooligans of Kandahar on LinkedIn. There's like a leadership lesson book because I feel like that's where that's where all the military books really fucking take off. And I know it's been about 3 years almost exactly since it came out.
Just around there. Yeah, I think
because I remember it was when I was studying for the bar exam. And so we can for the 3rd anniversary, everyone listening right now, you need to start posting about this on Hooligans of Kandahar on LinkedIn and just really get it accepted as kind of like a modern message to Garcia, just a seminal, and really an underline on the word seminal military text really for the next generation.
Getting demoted twice really taught me that life really is sometimes 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
And sometimes the step forwards are into a creek full of human waste.
R.I.P. to the Kandahar Poo Lake.
R.I.P. to a real one.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much. And everybody else, thank you for listening. And we'll talk to you next week.